audience. Welcome back today. We gather not for celebration, not for comfort, but for confrontation. The kind that burns in your chest and doesn't let you sleep at night. The kind that crawls beneath your skin and whispers in the dark corridors of your mind. They heavily underestimated your sixth sense. They mistook your silence for submission, your stillness for stagnation, your distance for defeat. And in that foolish oversight, they invited a storm they weren't ready for you. See, the world has this way of underestimating those who observe, those who feel beyond words, who listen to the shifting currents of people's energy and motion, who read the patterns not in ink, but in blood and shadow. They thought you were dreaming when in truth you were decoding every sideways glance, every half-hearted compliment, every backhanded gesture, every disguised attack. You saw it all, didn't you? Not with your eyes, but with something deeper, something older, something primal, a force that doesn't need proof to recognize betrayal, doesn't need clarity to sense danger. That sixth sense isn't some spiritual decoration. It's a weapon, a blade forged in silence, sharpened by suffering and dipped in patience. You were not blind. You were biding your time, watching the masks slip, watching the truth rot behind fake smiles and polished lies while they laughed at your back. You memorized their footsteps while they doubted your presence. You memorized their habits while they pushed you to the edge. They failed to see. You'd already mapped the terrain beyond it. They mistook kindness for weakness, empathy for gullibility, restraint for fear they thought they had. You cornered, thought your silence was surrender. But oh no, you were charging. You were storing that fire within you. Every betrayal added fuel, every insult added pressure, until the seams began to crack. And what they thought was silence was really the sound of a soul, rebuilding itself into something monstrous. Not grotesque, no, but vast, terrible, powerful. You became something no one could control, because you stopped trying to be understood and started becoming undeniable. Do you remember the nights when you questioned everything? When your own reflection looked unfamiliar? When you heard your name spoken without respect? When you saw doors close and bridges burn and still kept moving forward? Not with certainty, but with something deeper. With instinct, with rage, wrapped in discipline, with sorrow, molded into strategy. They underestimated your sixth sense because it doesn't scream, it doesn't cry, it just knows. It sees the shape of manipulation, the rhythm of deception, and it does not forget. And now that you've risen, not loud, not proud but absolute, there's nothing they can do. But watch as everything they denied in you becomes the very force that breaks them, because you didn't need their validation. You didn't ask for their praise. You knew something they didn't. You had a code. You followed it even when it hurt, even when it cost you everything. Because deep down you knew the storm was yours to summon, and now it comes in silence, unannounced, unstoppable. They trained their weapons on your image, but they never saw the truth, hiding in your shadow. Never noticed the beast pacing behind your calm exterior. They never counted on your intuition, your hunger, your refusal to be erased. You were never out of the fight. You were just beneath the radar, weaving through the cracks, feeding on the venom they fed you, converting pain into prophecy, every rejection into redirection, every lie into leverage. And now, here you are, not asking for a seat at their table, but setting your own table in the ruins of theirs. While they choke on the smoke of their own arrogance, you breathe deep, knowing this isn't revenge. This is justice delivered by the very force they mocked. You feel it, don't you? that pull beneath your ribs, that flicker in your chest, that cold, calm certainty that you were always meant for this, that all the detours were traps laid by the blind, that every broken path was part of your navigation system. Your sixth sense told you who to trust and who to discard, told you when to act and when to disappear, told you what they couldn't say out loud, but screamed through their energy. And now, as the dust settles and the crowd thins, your name is no longer whispered. It is carved. This is not the end. It's not even the peak. It's the quiet between the heartbeats, the breath before the scream, the final second before the sun explodes. And when it does, you will be at the center, not as a survivor, but as the orchestrator of your rise. They called it luck. They called it coincidence. But deep down, they fear the truth. They fear that you saw them before they saw themselves. And that fear, that fear, it's a symphony to your soul. They don't understand it. They can't. They never will. For they are still trapped in the illusion of their own limited senses. Their sight is not enough to understand you, for your power lies in what they cannot see. They live in the world of the obvious, the simple, the mundane. But you've moved beyond that. You've tapped into a realm where understanding doesn't come from logic, but from something deeper, something primal and ancient. They thought they could silence you. They thought they could drown you in their noise, but it's in silence that you are most powerful. It's in that deep, unsettling stillness that your true nature begins to reveal itself. And now, here you stand, not in anger, but in cold clarity. You are not the victim of their petty games, not the casualty of their careless moves. You are the culmination of everything they have underestimated in you. They never realized that you were always one step ahead, that every seemingly small thing you did, every moment you stayed silent, was a calculated move. While they were busy dismissing you, you were plotting, calculating, strategizing. While they were laughing, comfortable in their complacency, you were preparing, quietly constructing the framework of your own revolution. They never knew that they were building their own undoing with every step they took against you. They thought they were breaking you, when in truth, they were only sharpening you. Look at them now. They have no idea what's coming. They're still living in the same false comfort, the same blind arrogance that led them to make the mistake of underestimating you. They still believe that their words have power, that their actions hold weight. They don't realize that the power has already shifted. The ground beneath them is already crumbling. They just haven't seen it yet. But you know. You know that the storm is already upon them, and it will not be loud or brash. It will be the calm before the storm that shakes their entire foundation. It will be the quiet before the world trembles under the weight of their mistakes. They are not prepared for what's coming, because what's coming is not a war they can win with their usual tactics. No, the battle you are waging is one of perception. They can't fight a battle of perception because they don't even understand how it works. They think they can beat you with their words, with their schemes, with their mind games, but they don't realize that you're operating on a different frequency. Their mind games won't work on you because you've already seen through them. You've already peeled back the layers of their deceit, and now you're seeing them for what they truly are: weak, scared, small. What they fail to understand is that you didn't need to stoop to their level. You never needed to play their games. While they were lost in their petty struggles for control, for recognition, for dominance, you were quietly positioning yourself to take what was rightfully yours. You were watching, always watching. And every piece of information, every subtle nuance, every little flicker of truth that they carelessly exposed, you absorbed it, you cataloged it, you transformed it, into your own power. Do they know what that feels like? To be underestimated, to be belittled, to be written off as insignificant when you know deep down that you're destined for greatness? They didn't know the force of will that is required to rise from that. They didn't know what it took to withstand the weight of their doubt, the crushing force of their dismissal, and still stand tall. They didn't know how strong you had to become, how resilient you had to be, how much you had to endure in silence while the world laughed at you. They think they know what resilience is. They think they understand the struggle, the grind, but they've never had to fight the fight that you have fought. They've never had to fight from the shadows, with no applause, no recognition, no support. They've never had to fight against the very people who should have been your allies. They've never had to rely on their instincts, their raw inner strength, to push them forward when everything else seemed to crumble. But you know what it's like. You've lived it. And that's why they can't touch you. That's why, no matter how hard they try to tear you down, you'll only keep rising, because they have no idea what it took to make you who you are. They don't see the scars beneath your armor, the battles you fought when no one was looking, the pain you endured to get to this point. They don't see the moments when you had nothing left but your will, and even in those darkest hours, you still chose to stand, to keep moving forward, to keep pushing, even when the weight of the world was pressing down on you. They never realized that every time they tried to break you, they were only forging you into something unbreakable. They thought they were wearing you down, exhausting you, but they were feeding the fire within you. They were stoking the flames of something that would eventually consume them. They were feeding you the power that would destroy them. And now, the time has come. The time has come for you to rise, to step into the power you've always known was yours, and to show them what happens when they mess with the wrong person. They thought they could break you. They thought they could control you. They thought they could diminish you. But they were wrong. You were never broken. You were always waiting. You were always becoming. And now, you are unstoppable. Now you are the storm they can't outrun, the force they can't ignore, the power they can't control. And when it all comes crashing down, when they look at the wreckage of what they thought was their empire, they will know one thing. They were the architects of their own downfall. They will know that their arrogance, their dismissal of your power, their underestimation of your strength is what led them to this point, and they will regret it. They will regret every time they ever doubted you, every time they ever tried to belittle you, every time they thought they could control you. But by the time they realize this, it will be too late. By the time they see the truth, you will have already moved on. You will have already surpassed them, already claimed what was always yours, already built the future they never thought you were capable of building. And they will be left with nothing but the bitter taste of their own arrogance, watching as you rise to heights they could never dream of reaching. So let them underestimate you. Let them doubt you. Let them laugh at you and mock you. Because every time they do, you become stronger, more focused, more determined. You are the one who will walk away victorious in the end, and they will be left in your dust, wondering how they could have ever been so blind. The sixth sense they failed to recognize in you, the one they thought was a weakness, will be the thing that leads you to triumph. And when they look back, they will see the truth. They never stood a chance. And that realization, that bitter taste of defeat, will linger with them long after the echoes of their laughter have faded. You were never a mere obstacle in their path. No, you were the reckoning. You were the reminder that the world is a far more dangerous place for those who underestimate the silent, patient forces that lie beneath the surface. They never understood what you were capable of, and it is in this ignorance that they sealed their own fate. They believed that you could be swayed by words, manipulated by promises, intimidated by their power. They never took the time to learn you, to understand the depths of your resilience, to feel the hunger that gnawed at your soul. They mistook your quiet for weakness, your observation for hesitation, your silence for surrender. But now, they see it all too clearly, what you were truly capable of all along. The power they underestimated wasn't some grand, dramatic display of strength. Number, it was the quiet endurance, the burning fire in your chest, the unyielding will that thrived in the face of adversity. What they failed to realize was that you were always transforming. Every insult, every snub, every time they tried to diminish you, these were the ingredients of your evolution. They thought they could hold you back with their words, but in truth, they were merely fueling your transformation. Every wound they inflicted became another layer of steel in your soul. Every attempt to crush you birthed a new layer of resilience. And now, they're witnessing the result of everything they did to you, the version of you that no longer needs to prove itself, the version of you that has surpassed all their expectations and left them in the dust. There's power in silence, in stillness, in patience. Those who rush, who seek immediate gratification, who flaunt their power for the world to see, those are the ones who burn out quickly, who reveal their true weakness the moment the pressure mounts. You moved like a shadow. You waited, you listened, and in that quiet waiting, you became unstoppable. You cultivated a force of will so potent that no external force could penetrate it. You forged yourself not in the moment of triumph, but in the furnace of struggle. Each time they thought they'd broken you, you only grew stronger. Each time they thought you were weak, you only grew more cunning, more intelligent, more capable. They couldn't see that. They were too busy believing in their own superiority. Now, what do they have to show for their arrogance? They stand before you, and for the first time they see the truth. You were never their equal. You were always the predator. They were the prey, and they failed to see that. They let their ego blind them to the fact that you had already walked through fire and come out not only unscathed, but transformed. They thought you'd crumble, but instead, you've become a force of nature, the kind that can't be tamed, controlled, or manipulated. A force that moves with such precision, with such intent, that nothing and no one can stand in its way. Do they regret it now? Do they regret every time they looked at you and saw only weakness? Do they regret every time they doubted your potential, belittled your dreams, and dismissed your efforts? Of course they do, but by the time they realize their mistake, it will be too late. They will be left standing in the wreckage of their own arrogance, while you rise above them, above their petty games, above their small-minded attempts to control you. And in that rise, there will be no remorse. There will be no apologies. There will only be victory. There will only be the satisfaction of knowing that everything they tried to take from you, every ounce of strength they tried to diminish in you, has been turned against them. In the end, it's not about revenge. Number, it's about something deeper. It's about becoming the version of yourself they never thought you could be. It's about proving that their estimation of you was nothing more than a reflection of their own ignorance. You didn't need their validation, their recognition, or their permission. You didn't need them to see you for what you were. You always knew. You always knew that you were destined for more, that you were meant to rise above the petty struggles of the world around you and carve out your own path on your own terms. They will be left in their own thoughts, replaying every moment they overlooked you, every time they underestimated the quiet power within you. They will replay those moments in their minds, wondering where it all went wrong, wondering when it was that they lost their grip on control, when they lost the power to dictate the terms. And as they do, you will be far ahead, having already left them in the dust, having already claimed the victory that was always meant to be yours. But let's not forget, this victory didn't come easily. It wasn't handed to you. It was earned. You've bled for it. You've sacrificed for it. You've fought battles they couldn't even imagine. Battles fought not with fists, but with mind and spirit. And that is the power that they never saw coming. That is the force that they will never understand. The quiet strength that dwells in your soul. The unrelenting drive that pushes you forward, even when everything around you seems to crumble. They will never understand the depths of your determination. They will never know the lengths you've gone to, the cost you've paid, to become this force that stands before them now. And now, when they look at you, all they can do is marvel at the transformation they missed. All they can do is watch as you rise, unopposed, unstoppable, a force that cannot be ignored. You have become the very thing they feared, something they cannot control, something they cannot break. And in their hearts, they will know that their defeat was inevitable because they never understood the true nature of your strength. So let them remain in their ignorance. Let them remain in their arrogance. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you've seen through it all. You've transcended it all. And now, nothing stands between you and your destiny. You were never meant to be controlled, to be confined by the limitations of their minds. You were always meant to be free, to break through every barrier they placed before you, to rise above the world's expectations and create your own reality. The world will tremble as they witness the storm you've become, and the echo of your power will be felt for generations to come. They will look at you and wonder how they could have been so blind, so foolish. And when they do, you will already be standing at the top, having claimed everything that was rightfully yours. You are not just a survivor. You are the conqueror, and they were never meant to be your equals. So now we reach the end, not of the journey, but of the illusion. They thought it would end with your silence, with your submission, with your collapse. But you turned the silence into a strategy, the submission into strength, and the collapse into rebirth. They never expected the ending to look like this, where the one they dismissed, ignored, betrayed, becomes the one standing tall in the aftermath of everything they built on lies. You didn't just endure, you evolved. You didn't just survive, you transcended. And now, with every breath you take, you remind the world of something it's too often forgotten, that the quiet ones, the watchers, the feelers, the underestimated, they are the most dangerous of all. Because while the world sleeps on them, they rise in the dark. While others chase applause, they chase mastery. And when the world finally notices them, it's already too late. They heavily underestimated your sixth sense, and that was their fatal mistake. Because what they couldn't sense, what they couldn't see, was the inevitability of your rise. A rise that came not with a roar, but with precision. Not with revenge, but with purpose. Not just to prove them wrong, but to prove to yourself that every ounce of pain, every drop of sacrifice, every sleepless night, it all meant something. Now they have no more words, just silence. The same silence they once thought made you weak. But now, that silence belongs to you. It follows you. It surrounds you. Not as a void, but as presence, power, finality. You are no longer the forgotten one in the corner. You are the axis they now spin around. You are the reckoning they never saw coming. And above all, you are living proof that sometimes the greatest weapon is not what can be held, but what can be felt. Your intuition was never a weakness. It was your edge. Your sixth sense was never strange. It was your signal. And now, it's your throne. Let them remember your name, not because you demanded their respect, but because you became undeniable, because you were underestimated, and because you were unstoppable.